Hello and welcome to the May 28th, 2024 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick. Brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, there is some budget for this. I'm not quite sure how much of a budget it is, but there is some budget for this. We're on every other... Oh gosh, there I am, screwing up my intro. Oh well, we're on every other Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Facebook page. We're here on Facebook Meta, whatever the hell it's called this week. We are, however, working to cross-platform to YouTube, which will be airing soon, at which point we will also be cross-streaming between Facebook and YouTube. Not everybody has Facebook these days. Not everybody likes social media, but a lot of folks still like YouTube, so we're going to be using both. This is a program dedicated to bringing some good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back into the world. Several of our articles are pulled from goodnewsnetwork.org, but many others are sent in by you, the viewers. So hello to everybody. I'm sorry we're starting a little late. I had a little bit of a tech snafu, which usually happens when I go on a long trip. I was on a long trip this last weekend, which is why we delayed Nick's News so much. We were supposed to do it yesterday, but I got back super late, was totally unprepared. You'd think by the intro on this one that I was also totally unprepared, but here we are. And yeah. Usually when I go on those long trips and I pull my laptop and bring it with me, I have to redo all my settings, and sure enough, that's what happened here. So I think we're lucky enough that the webcam is working right away. So hello, Donna. Hello, Cassidy. Hello, everybody that's tuning in. I thank you all so much for tuning in. Let's get into it. So our news brew for today is going to be Lost. Look at that art. Look at that art. That is Lost at Sea by Upper Thames Brewing Company in Canada. That's right. We're trying Canadian beer. This is a 6.6% ABV Baltic Porter, which means it gets brewed a specific way to get called a Baltic Porter. It's kind of brewed like a lager. So I had the pleasure of stopping at Upper Thames on my way back from the event that I was at, and their beer was the bomb. So I grabbed a bunch, and I am really looking forward to trying this out. We don't need the Balisong bottle opener, so we're just going to crack this can open. Hey, Casey. Man, Casey's got me beat by 2 Mike's Hards. All right, we got to catch up. So we'll get a good crack on this one. And because it's Canadian, of course, it lists it as 473 milliliters. So I've got my Sam Adams pint glass. Baltic Porters like curved pint glasses. We want all that gas out. I don't want any of that gas in me. Look at the head on that. Holy crap. Wow. Wow, look at that. That is a dark porter. It's a dark brown. Oh, the smell, folks. Why is the webcam... The webcam was doing this the last time when we did the tech test, too. It just keeps having trouble focusing. And it's so weird, because I changed the light to the nicer tone. Why is our camera still on the fritz? We might be due for a new camera. Some budget studios might have to put in and get us a new webcam. It looks dark and... Hey, hello, Charlie. Hello, Eliza. Hello, everybody. Gosh, I'm so happy to see everyone. Yeah, so we got this banging brew. Shout outs. Let's get into our shout outs specifically so I can try this beer. Our first shout out is going to go to Graphics by Ashford. Graphics by Ashford has provided us with our new banner and our new profile picture. Those are also going to be the banner and profile picture for the Nick's News YouTube page. Now that we have those, it is coming soon. I've got it all ready to go. Hey, Ed. And yeah, so the Nick's News YouTube page is going to be going up. We've got our art. And thank you, Graphics by Ashford. Cheers. Wow. That, my friends, is a complex brew with a lot going on. I'm just glad it survived the trip. Wow. That's good. Hey, Julie. From the theater. Nice. Julie's seeing Wicked tonight. I saw Wicked a while back when it was at the DeVos Performance Hall. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite plays now. And I am super excited for the movie. So fingers crossed when that comes out that it just knocks it out of the park. Because, man, is that a wonderful musical. The theater. Oh, Cassidy's going Thursday. Very cool. So, second shout out kind of goes to where was I over the weekend? Well, I was over in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and I got to be present. I got to be blessed to be present for the wedding of my cousin Steven. It was a beautiful affair. The venue was incredible. It was basically on a mountain overlooking just this expanse of green forest. Absolutely wonderful scene and a place to get married. It was great. I was really, truly honored to be invited to the occasion. So to Stephen and Haley, thank you and congratulations. May your lives together be one of adventure, learning, and love. Cheers to the newlyweds. That's a good beer. It's only 6.6%. It does not have to be higher ABV. It is very good. Oh, it's very dry at the end, too. So our last shout out is kind of an important one, at least to me. We were going to have Nick's News yesterday, which if it was yesterday, that would have been March 20, or not March, geez. I'm glad Sean's not here to call me out on that. May 27th. And so it would have been on Memorial Day for this year. I'd like to carry over now what I had planned then. That's kind of like a little breakdown. Memorial Day is not, it's not one of those, oh no, he is here. Welcome, Sean. So Memorial Day for us isn't one of those celebration holidays. You don't go around saying Happy Memorial Day. The same way you'd say Happy 4th of July or Happy Halloween. It's because Memorial Day is a very somber day. It's a day of mourning and a day to remember those who gave all while serving in the United States Armed Forces. We thank them now for their service and their bravery. To all of those who gave all, thank you. Man, Sean got here just in time. Darn it. And I was even late. Bug update. Annie, the Orb Weaver, made a web. Annie is old by Orb Weaver standards. I mean, I got Annie last year when she was an adult, well into adulthood. Normally, these species only live a year. And that's it. But under ideal conditions and very simple living, Annie is going strong. And when I looked in and when I got back from my trip, she has successfully spun a pretty impressive, decent web. She's happy and healthy in there in the tank. It's right over here. And I'm hopeful that she'll continue on and stick around with us. So Annie's doing great. Everything else is quiet in the bug room. I still haven't figured out what I want to shake things up with, but we'll figure something out. Of course, Sean misses the mark completely with what it's all about. Sean, it's the fact that Annie is so old. Normally, Orb Weavers will enter a type of end of life condition senescence. Where they'll refuse food, they'll stop doing things that they normally do, and they literally just starve to death. They basically just choose to die. And he's still going and still making webs, which is a huge thing for an orb weaver this old. So I'm very happy about that. Even if you don't understand. Let's get into our good news. We've got 11 great articles with a lot of send-ins. I believe if we look at the list, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 send-ins out of our 11 articles. Drama Queen of Spiders. So, getting into our good news, our broadcast is broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and we end on the wholesome notes that we really like, those real touchy-feely articles. And let me tell you, we got some bangers come wholesome notes, so be ready. Let's see. We're going to start off with amazing engineering. Yeah. I still got to get the stinger. We're going to have to do more tech tests so I can get all the things working. But yeah, I called this one Amazing Engineering. I'm going to post it in the chat if y'all want to read along. Wait for it to appear. There we go. Engineers from 2 countries will meet in the middle to complete the Gordie Howe Bridge, connecting 2 hockey-loving nations. If we had a sports section to Nick's News, this would go in it. But we don't. The new U.S.-Canada border crossing won't be ready until 2025, but seeing that only a hockey rink-sized gap remains between the U.S. and Canadian sections, it's an appropriate place to celebrate the imminent completion of the Gordie Howe Memorial Bridge. With one skate in Detroit and another in Windsor, Ontario, the bridge deck is set to be finished in June, according to the joint venture contractor Bridging North America. It's far from just your average bridge, and Engineering News Record reports that with the central segment spanning 0.53 miles, that's right, we use freedom units around these parts, between the 2 bridge towers, it will have the longest main span of any cable-stayed bridge in North America. It's a big bridge. It also will be the longest steel and concrete composite deck for any cable-stayed bridge in the world. So this is a world record-setting bridge. Nicknamed Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe, after whom the bridge is named, is considered the most complete player to ever play the game. At his retirement, his 801 goals, 1,049 assists, and 1,850 total points, won mostly through his 25 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings, were all NHL records that stood until they were broken by Wayne Gretzky. The bridge won't only connect Detroit and Windsor, Interstate 75 and its Canadian equivalent, and the United States and Canada, but also 2 hockey-loving nations who shared in this great man's sporting capacities. One by the nation of his birth, and the other by the city in which he dominated for so long. Bridging North America is proud of the dedicated engineers and skilled tradespeople whose unwavering commitments to safety and excellence has propelled us closer to completing the bridge deck of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Their resilience and skill are the driving force behind the realization of this historic infrastructure project, said David Henderson, CEO of BNA, in a statement. The bridge will include custom facilities on both sides, like a duty-free most likely, and probably be open to traffic by October of 2025, 29 months short of Howe's 100th birthday. That is awesome. To everybody involved with the construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge, which is finally nearing completion. Can we get those engineers to fix Ottawa? Maybe. But to everybody involved in the construction of this monumentous occasion, then this incredible structure, cheers. This next one was named for us by the person who sent it in. It is known as Setting a Firm Foundation. And Cassidy, thank you so much for sending this article in. This one ticked off all of my boxes, mostly because, as some of you know, I go on and on and on and on and on about concrete. And this one has something to do with concrete. So I will post this into the chat if y'all want to read along with me. Absolute miracle breakthrough provides recipe for zero carbon cement. Concrete and steel production are major sources of CO2 emissions. But a new solution from Cambridge could recycle both at the same time. Throwing old concrete into steel processing furnaces not only purifies iron, but produces what we call reactivated cement as a byproduct. If done using renewable energy, the process could make for completely carbon zero cement. Concrete is the world's most used building material, and making it is a particularly dirty business. Concrete production alone is responsible for about 8% of the total global CO2 emissions. Unfortunately, it's not easy to recycle back to a form that can be used to make new concrete structures. We're rocking more concrete. Oh no. Scientists have, of course, been investigating ways to make concrete greener, some of which we've gone over on previous Nick's News episodes. And that can include changing the recipe to switch out the most polluting ingredients, which is specifically limestone, or designing concrete so that it absorbs more CO2 from the air after it's laid. For the new study, Cambridge researchers investigated how waste concrete could be converted back into what's called clinker, the dry component of cement ready to be used again. It's basically recycling concrete back into cement, which can be used for concrete again. I had a vague idea from previous work that if it were possible to crush old concrete, taking out the sand and stones, heating the cement would remove the water, and then it would form clinker again, said Dr. Cyril Dunant, first author of the study. A bath of liquid metal would help this chemical reaction along, and an electric arc furnace, used to recycle steel, felt like a strong possibility. We had to try. So for the Cambridge method, the lime flux... Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a paragraph. Back we go. Blah, blah, blah. An electric arc furnace needs a flux material, usually lime, to purify steel. The molten rocky substance captures the impurities, then bubbles up to the surface and forms a protective layer that prevents the new pure steel from becoming exposed to air. At the end of the process, the used flux is discarded as a waste material. Electric Arc Furnace should be the name of a band. I like that. It probably is. Somebody check that. Is Electric Arc Furnace the name of a band? And if so, what is their genre? So for the Cambridge method, the lime flux was swapped out for the recycled cement paste. And sure enough, not only was it able to purify the steel just fine, but if the leftover slag is cooled quickly in air, it becomes new Portland cement, the thing needed to make more concrete. The resulting concrete that's made from it has similar performance to the original stuff. Importantly, the team says this technique doesn't add major costs to either concrete or steel production and significantly reduces CO2 emissions compared to the usual methods of making both. If the electric arc furnace was powered by renewable sources, it could essentially make for zero-emission cement. The technique has already been trialed in furnaces that produce a few dozen kilograms of cement, and the researchers say the first industrial-scale trials are underway this month, where it would be producing about 66 tons of cement in 2 hours. That is crazy. The researchers say that the process could scale up to produce 1 billion tons of electric cement by 2050. Ska. It's gonna be a ska band. Producing zero-emission cement is an absolute miracle, but we've also got to reduce the amount of cement and concrete we use, said Professor Julian Allwood, who led the research. Concrete is cheap, strong, and can be made almost anywhere, but we just use far too much of it. We could dramatically reduce the amount of concrete we use without any reduction in safety, but there needs to be political will to make that happen. As well as being a breakthrough for the construction industry, we hope that Cambridge Electric Cement will also be a flag to help the government recognize that the opportunities for innovation on our journey to zero emissions extend far beyond the energy sector. A patent has been filed for the process as the first step towards commercialization. E-Cement is their first album. What's this about electric cement? So, Mike, welcome. What you missed was we basically have an article where Cambridge has found a new way to make cement and in an arc furnace, in an electric arc furnace, while purifying steel, and it might turn out to be a really good zero carbon cement. So that's really cool. Cassidy, thank you so much for sending that article in, and to everybody at Cambridge working on zero carbon cement. Cheers. Or as we're going to call it here, E-Cement. All right, well, that kicks us out of Category 1, Science and Technology. We are going to bump into Category 2, Health and Medicine. And I'm going to start it off with an article I pulled from goodnewsnetwork.org. And I titled this one, isn't there a thing about carbon capture cement? There is a thing about carbon capture cement. Sean has derailed us successfully. So carbon capture cement. Why is my camera so low? The camera feels like it's a little on the low side. There we go. Because we always want to see them Yeti mic. Because, that's just there. So carbon capture cement is a special type of cement that as it hardens, it actually absorbs CO2 from the surrounding atmosphere, trapping it within itself. And it uses that to go through the chemical process of hardening. It's really cool. But back to this article. I called this one, This is a Triumph. I don't have a special title for anything that is diabetes related. Diabetes is a horrible disease, and has done a lot of damage to my family. So anytime I see an article about diabetes and diabetes research, it's probably going to end up as good news. So this is a triumph indeed. I'm going to copy and paste this in the chat if y'all want to read along. A 59-year-old man who had type 2 diabetes for 25 years is cured by stem cells. Respectfully, fuck diabetes. And Ed got the reference. I thought when I read the article, I was thinking of like the cake from Portal and just sugar, cake, etc. And when I read the article, this is a triumph. I'm making a note here. Huge success. Eliza throwing out the potential titles for future diabetes articles. I love it. So yeah, 59-year-old man who had type 2 diabetes for 25 years is cured by stem cells. Stem cells are being used more and more widely in treatments across the spectrum of medicine, but a recent breakthrough from Shanghai promises the best may still be yet to come. A senior who had suffered from type 2 diabetes for 25 years hasn't taken insulin for 33 months after he received a regenerative islet cell transplantation. Diabetes, particularly type 2, the form that may develop in one's life because of poor diet and lifestyle choices, is one of the most prevalent non-communicable diseases on Earth. China in particular is one of the world's diabetes hotspots, with 140 million people unable to make their own insulin, and so suffer from kidney problems, blindness, amputation, and cardiovascular problems. But this new breakthrough, coming after 10 years of research and testing, and I think we might have covered this on a previous Nick's News article, while it was still in that research and testing phase, may change the paradigm of sickness forever. Yin Hao, a leading researcher on the team and director of Shanghai Chengxing Hospital's Organ Transplant Center, said they took the patient's own peripheral blood mononuclear cells and used existing methods to reprogram them back into pluripotent stem cells for injection into the pancreas. So these were not stem cells that came from outside of this person. These were cells that were turned into stem cells and then were injected back into this person's pancreas. Our technology has matured, and it has pushed the boundaries in the field of regenerative medicine for the treatment of diabetes, Yin told China Daily, whose team conducted the research with scientists from the Center of Molecular Cell Science at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Existing transplant treatments for type 2 diabetes are hindered by a lack of donor cells and the complexity of pancreatic islet cell isolation technology. Pancreatic islet cells are the major insulin-producing cells in the body, and the patients were almost completely inhibited. He relied on multiple insulin injections daily in addition to a kidney transplant, so his body had already been ravaged by diabetes and its complications. After receiving the manufactured stem cells in 2021, he was weaned off of external insulin over 11 weeks, after which his disease seemed to be largely gone. Follow-up examination showed that the patient's pancreatic islet function was effectively restored, and his renal function was within normal range, Yin said. Such results suggested that the treatment can avoid the progression of diabetic complications. The paper was published in Cell Discovery on April 30th, and future studies, the authors wrote, should explore the pharmacology of drugs that might provide off-the-shelf equivalents for islet transplantation. Yep. We're talking biohacking. We're talking no waiting for donor cells. We're talking methods to take one's own cells and reprogram them into the cells that we need. Now, mind you, this is coming out of China. I'm hoping this is all legit. I'm hoping every last word of this article is legit. And this is a step forward in curing diabetes, getting the pancreas working by a means we have never seen before, by simply using our own cells to kickstart that insulin production back up. That is crazy to everybody involved. And multiple groups, specifically Yin Hao and his team at the Shanghai Chengxing Hospital's Organ Transplant Center. Cheers. And to that man or person who is now cured of type 2 diabetes. Cheers. What did I call this next one? Looking into the abyss. This is another pretty crazy one. I do agree, Sean, but hopefully we don't run into that. But yeah, so I called this one Looking into the Abyss, and this is another crazy, potential, huge game changer in medicine. With another one that affects several of our families, I'm sure. So I posted this in the chat if y'all want to read along. He solved a medical mystery and finds a key to Alzheimer's disease in simple amino acid. For over a decade, Big Pharma has been pouring billions into drug trials for Alzheimer's disease treatments without progress. But what if there were a neuroprotective compound with better early-stage results than any developed pharmaceutical sitting right on our dinner plates? That's what Dr. Paul Cox may have discovered after solving the mystery of neurodegenerative disease in Guam, where in the 1990s the rates of ALS and Alzheimer's-like symptoms were 120% higher than the rest of the world. Dr. Cox would eventually discover that cyanobacteria, the same life forms that make green algae, produce a natural toxin called BMAA that was seeping into trees on the island. The trees would then grow seeds rich in the toxin, and seeds were eaten by flying fox bats, which were then hunted by the locals for protein. The BMAA was then poisoning the locals and causing, as Dr. Cox put it, deaths from neurodegenerative diseases in every family that he spoke to. In 2003, Cox told the world about it. When we realized that cyanobacteria might be the culprit, it was like staring into the abyss because we realized you could be exposed anywhere. Dr. Cox told CNN in a mini-doc, who didn't in any sense say that cyanobacteria was the cause of Alzheimer's, but that it was a risk factor. Seeking to understand and quantify the toxicology of BMAA, Dr. Cox ran a trial through his nonprofit, the Brain Chemistry Labs at the Institute for Ethnomedicine in Jackson. What he discovered was that when monkeys were given the toxic BMAA plus an amino acid called L-serine, the neurotoxic effect was reduced by 85%. L-serine is nothing magical. It's one of many non-essential amino acids we consume in our diets. Amino acids collectively represent what is labeled as food products, or labeled in food products as protein. L-serine is found in eggs and meat, as well as edamame, tofu, seaweed, and sweet potatoes in lower amounts. Seeing the dramatic protective effects that L-serine conferred upon the monkeys, Dr. Cox took the data to the FDA and set up clinical trials to investigate the simple amino acid as a possible treatment for Alzheimer's. The last part of this interesting story is that Dr. Cox wasn't trained as a neurologist, but rather an ethnobotanist. He studies how human cultures use plants for medicine. On the island of Okinawa, a blue zone famous for its longevity, Dr. Cox discovered that the residents of Ogimi Village consumed on average about 400% more L-serine than the average American. This observational evidence combined with his lab data has given Dr. Cox tremendous confidence that his placebo-controlled trial looking at Alzheimer's patients supplementing with L-serine will produce the goods, and that this simple dietary component could be the first off-the-shelf treatment for Alzheimer's. That is bonkers. That this simple amino acid may help in the battle against Alzheimer's, and it's kind of been just under our noses the whole time. I agree with Sean that the human genome is kind of set to self-destruct. So long as our telomeres extend and, we make cells, we're programmed to die. But science just might save us. And that's in multivitamins. That's interesting. I'll have to look at my multivitamins. To Dr. Cox and his team, and hopefully to everybody who might benefit from this, cheers. Charlie, save your tears for the wholesome notes. We're gonna bust it out in the wholesome notes. Your pill caddy just got bigger. So that gets us out of health and medicine and gets us into category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. This first article was sent in by Cassidy. Cassidy, thank you so much for sending this one in. I will copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along. This one also did show up on goodnewsnetwork.org. So it was a double whammy. Actually, several of our articles showed up on both the sites that people sent in and Good News Network. So I was really happy to see that crossing. Marine species makes a resurgence after being hunted to near extinction. A success of conservation on a global scale. I call it a whale of a success story. Argentina's Patagonian coast has welcomed back a creature that had long been absent from the area after it was hunted to near extinction. Sea whales, or sei whales, I'm actually not 100% sure how to pronounce that word, but these whales, the third largest species of whale, are a more regular sight off the coast of southern Argentina thanks to global bans on commercial whaling that have allowed the animals to recover in numbers. Biologists and researchers in marine ecosystems at the Argentine state science body connoisseur Mariano Coscarella explained to Reuters that the sea whales, I'm going to see if anybody corrects me on how to pronounce it. I proofread, I should have proof checked. Mariano Coscarella explained to Reuters that the sea whales have a very slow rate of breeding, which is once every 2 to 3 years. It means it took nearly 100 years for the aquatic mammal to restore its population. Nature finds a way. We can consider this a success of conservation on a global scale, Coscarella told the publication. After hunting that reduced the sea whale's population to a minimum, almost 100 years later, this population started to bounce back, and now they come to the same places they used to before they were hunted. Before they had been hunted, sorry. Sea whales are majestic creatures that also play an important role in healthy ecosystems. According to the United States National Ocean... The brackets are the key there. Yeah. It's a long time to run the bases. Sea whales are majestic creatures that also play an important role in healthy ecosystems. According to the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, aka NOAA, they can consume 2,000 pounds of food a day, helping to keep the balance of the food chain in check, which benefits communities that rely on fishing for food and income. Meanwhile, whale feces provide essential nutrients for phytoplankton, which produce oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide at impressive rates. Sea whales can also absorb carbon in life and deposit it in death, with the latter helping to support deep-sea ecosystems. While hunting is no longer a significant problem for sea whale populations, they still face threats from warming ocean temperatures, collisions with huge ocean-going vessels, and entanglement in discarded fishing gear and consumption of plastic waste. We can do our part to help with both the former and the latter. Reducing the planet-warming pollution we produce, from transportation, diet, consumer choices, and waste disposal, for example, can help keep the Earth's temperatures down, slowing the rate at which the oceans heat up. Like trees. Yep, whales are basically just floating trees. Just completely commanding a biosphere. Cutting our use of single-use plastics can also make a difference by stopping the production of this harmful material that often makes its way to oceans once discarded, where it will not degrade and can enter the bodies of aquatic animals that mistake the items for food. That's not to mention nano and microplastic pollution, and the fact that plastic is made from petrochemicals, which can leach harmful compounds into the water if it remains for too long. On a larger scale, Coscarella told Reuters that countries need to maintain their commitment to the global moratorium on whaling, allowing these amazing creatures to continue to thrive. It's helping other species of whale bounce back too, with scientists in Australia reporting blue whale numbers have stabilized or are on the rise. That is awesome. I guess for this one, to the world for putting a ban on whaling, which has allowed the sea whales to recover in population, and definitely to Cassidy for sending in this article. Cheers. I called this next one Starry Night, Blooms Bright. And this one was sent in by Charlie. So Charlie, thank you very much for sending this one in. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Thousands of flowers bloom into beautiful starry night. Garden on Mackinac Island. Grand Hotel's new garden surprise is a landscape of starry night. The famous 1889 painting by artist Vincent van Gogh, done completely in hyacinths. Drew Butterfield, Senior Director of Grounds for the Mackinac Island Resort, created the 200 square foot new garden area as a solo passion project. Last year, he planted 45 4,500 hyacinth bulbs in shades of white, blue, yellow, and purple to mimic the background and colorful swirls of the iconic oil painting. Then he had to wait for spring to see how it would bloom, and if it would indeed look like one of his favorite pieces of art, and actually, one of mine too. I really didn't know how it was going to work out, said Butterfield, whose job includes overseeing the resort's golf, gardens, and all hotel grounds, including the landscaping. It was a long winter of waiting. Butterfield said he's thrilled with the results and is glad to know other Grand Hotel guests and island visitors are enjoying it, along with his team's other big creation, the Secret Garden, which is located just a short walk away on the resort's grounds. There is also a gallery of the Secret Garden, which is unbelievable in appearance. But man, just seeing Starry Night done in flowers touches my heart. I have a green thumb. I love taking care of plants. As you can see, I've got a number of them behind me, and others all throughout my house. And just seeing hyacinths blooming into Starry Night, which is also, again, one of my favorite paintings, is just beautiful. So definitely to Drew Butterfield and to Charlie for sending in that article. Cheers. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome, Eliza. That man managed to kill a plastic plant. Jesus, Sean. All right, this next one came in from Eliza. I called it, Florida cat saves owner from fire it potentially started. But I'll copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along with me. That's funny, Ed. Stop poking it with me. Bah! All right, I'm going to post this in the chat. Here we go. Cat hailed as hero after saving Florida woman from house fire. As we get into this article, you're going to realize where my title came from. A cat is being hailed as a hero after saving a Florida woman whose home had caught flames while she was sleeping. On March 27th, news reports of a cat who had saved the life of their human mom started to circulate, and now the woman is calling her cat a hero. Here's what happened. According to Fox 35 News, a woman in Port Orange, Florida had an accident that could have gone a lot worse if it weren't for her cat. Oh gosh, how am I going to butcher this name? Karen abruptly woke up after her cat knocked on her while sleeping. It turns out her cat was purposefully trying to wake her because her home was in flames. A candle she had lit the night before in the bathroom sparked a fire. I forgot it was lit, and I fell asleep watching TV, she told the news station. Is it possible the cat knocked the candle over? Yes. While she was sleeping, her cat, Chewy, knew he had to wake her as the flames continued growing. Karen said there were several cans on a shelf near her bed, the news station reported. She said the cat began knocking them onto her to wake her up, repeating the behavior of its crime, perhaps. How dare I insinuate such a thing? Jesus. Oh, man. Her cat knocking those cans on her likely saved her life. When she woke up, the room was already full of smoke. She was able to wake up, grab her pets, and get outside. I just ran out the door. When the door opened, the whole thing went whoosh, she explained. The news station reports that the Port Orange Fire and Rescue officials said she was lucky to be alive. dare you incinerate such a thing? Oh, in most instances, deaths are caused by the inhalation of carbon monoxide, the news station explained. One of the investigators on the scene told Fox 35 News that if the cat had not woken her up, then it's a strong possibility she would have never woken up. Firefighters were able to contain the fire, though Karen's home was fully destroyed. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. Karen credits her cat, Chewy. "He's my hero," Karen said. "No one ever wants anything bad to happen, but being prepared can make a difference if something does. According to ASPCA Pet Health Insurance, there are some steps pet parents should take when creating a fire safety plan. A fire is scary for everyone, including your little buddy, but following these steps can help prepare you for an emergency fire situation, making you and your pet feel safer and less stressed," the organization explains. Beyond typical fire safety planning, such as making routes, having extinguishers, and having smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in the home, you should do what you can to prevent fires. Chewy, "I'll do it again." Yuck. Oh, the ASPCA says around 700 house fires each year are actually started by pets. Chewy ain't looking like such a hero, potentially. And that's why pet parents should make a considerable effort to mitigate the risks. The organization writes, "Curious kitties and pups can easily knock over a candle and start a fire. To play it safe, you may want to switch to battery-operated flameless candles. Otherwise, never leave a lit candle unattended with a pet in the home, not even for a moment." Other places you should include space heaters, stovetops, fireplaces, and other places you should include... I think that is a line that was written by the editor for, like, adding on. But, yeah, so... Epic gaslighting, cat likely almost kills you, then makes you worship the meat. This is how they get us. This is definitely how they get us. To Chewy for potentially starting a fire but saving your owner from it. And to Eliza for sending that article in. Cheers. Bonnie glares at the cat that lit itself on fire a few weeks ago. If you didn't catch it, scroll up through the chat and read Sean's father killing a plastic plant, because that I almost spit when I saw it. Well, speaking of fires, we're gonna get out of flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. We're getting into category 4, the wholesome notes, and we're gonna start with a fire. But this one was even crazier than a cat running in to save everybody. I call this one Zombie. This one actually gets one of our predetermined titles. So I come up with funny titles for my take on the articles, but we have some predetermined ones. So, like, if we have a beer one, it's raise a glass. If we have a cancer one, at this point, it's cancer, fuck cancer, or COVID, fuck COVID. When it's something heroic, it's not all heroes wear capes. And I'm going to copy and paste this in the chat for y'all to read along. My baby is still in the house. Hero stranger dives into burning home twice to save Ohio baby. A Cleveland man is being hailed as a hero for his determination to rescue an infant trapped in a burning house. John Strikovich was on his way to work when the 62-year-old saw a house consumed in fire and smoke, but no fire engines had yet arrived. In front of the house, Stikovich saw who he assumed was the occupant looking on despondently. The mother was sitting on the lawn with her one baby, and I asked her if she was all right, and she said, "My baby is still in the house." And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I have to save the baby. That's how it's going to be, Strikovich told Nextstar's WJW. Circling the house, he tried to go in through the side door, but kicking it in, he found the smoke and fire was too much. At the back of the house, another door was already open, and Strikovich crawled in to search for the baby before being driven back out empty-handed. He asked the mother where she last saw her child, to which she replied that it was next to the baby gate. So plunging once more into the inferno, Strikovich sought in vain with time and oxygen running short. Contemplating what to do, the thought of saving himself emerged, but the hero-to-be squashed it after hearing the infant making a sound. Throwing himself in the sound's direction, his arm caught hold of the baby's leg before the man retreated with all the strength he had left. The fire had been so severe that 2 firefighters arriving after Strikovich completed the rescue mission were injured trying to control the blaze. The department said Strikovich's actions were without a doubt the reason that the baby survived. Treated for smoke inhalation at the Metro Health Medical Center, Strikovich was able to go home the same day. And WJW Cleveland says it is believed the city is poised to honor the man for his bravery. I feel wonderful that I could save the baby. That mother doesn't have to mourn her baby. The baby gets to live today, he said. Everybody is just calling and saying how great of a job it was, but I mean, I would do it for anybody. It doesn't matter. And I would hope that somebody would do it for me. Not all heroes wear capes indeed. To John Strikovich, a man who set his own life on the line and said, self-preservation be damned, and went into a burning home twice to rescue an infant. Cheers. I call this next one a 40-year dream in the making. This one was sent in by Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. I'm going to copy and paste this one in the chat if y'all want to read along. "79-year-old Vietnam War veteran from Waterford may be OCC's oldest graduate. Vic Lyman is receiving his associate degree in what he's calling a 40-year dream in the making." 79-year-old Vietnam War veteran Vic Lyman from Waterford says it's a 40-year dream in the making as he receives his college degree from Oakland Community College on Saturday. This article came out on May 15th. So that would have been the 18th that he received his diploma. Lyman served in the United States Marines during the Vietnam War and began boot camp at only 17 years old. After his time in the military, he worked a few odd jobs, but decided to get his applied science degree in culinary arts and food service management in the 1980s to take his career further. He attended Oakland Community College, but needed to financially support his family. With only one class left to get his degree, Lyman dropped out when a job opportunity came along at Coca-Cola. "I had to decide, basically, am I going to take care of my family, feed my family, or am I going to go back and finish this class? Well, I chose my family over that one class," Lyman said. Lyman worked over 20 years with Coca-Cola, doing everything from dispatching to auditing. His love for the company and product runs deep, as shown by his Coca-Cola room in his home, and has a lot of merchandise in that room. But he could never shake the feeling of how close he was to getting his degree. "Finishing the degree was always in the back of my mind," he said. As fate would have it, he recently attended a veterans fair where Michigan Works was connecting veterans to education opportunities. When they heard he only needed one class to get his degree, they stepped in to help. Lyman learned the last remaining physical education class was all set due to his years in the military. All he needed to complete was phys ed, and he was in the military. Guess we're gonna count it. What? That is bonkers. We've got a lot of Michigan articles tonight, too. So Lyman is receiving his associate degree just months shy of his 80th birthday. And there is a picture of Vic in his cap and gown. To see him with his diploma and to see him walk across the aisle with other students that are graduating, it's going to be thrilling, Lyman's son John said. Vic Lyman plans on celebrating his graduation this Saturday at Arena at Oakland University the only way he knows how, a cold glass of Coca-Cola. Oakland Community College told 7 News Detroit that Vic Lyman is one of the oldest to walk across their graduation stage, but also one of the most deserving. Technicalities are always the best. Wow. Charlie, thank you very much for sending in that article, and to Vic Lyman getting his diploma at 79. Cheers, sir. We're closing in on the end, and it's only going to be tearjerkers from here on out. This next one was sent in by Eliza. Thank you very much, Eliza. I called it A Father's Love. And I'm going to copy and paste this in the chat for y'all to read along. Edinburgh kidney transplant. How West Lothian father gave his son the gift of life by agreeing to donate a kidney. A loving dad has given his son an amazing second chance by donating his kidney to save him from an incurable disease. James McDonald, 57, gave his son the gift of life after Craig, who's 28, developed chronic kidney failure. The disease had reduced Craig's kidney function by a staggering 92%. His mom, dad, older sister, and several members of his extended family stepped forward as potential donors to save him from a future on dialysis. James emerged as the most compatible match in the pair. From Livingston, West Lothian, underwent the life-saving transplant operation at the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh in February of last year. Now in time to celebrate World Kidney Day, Craig has made a full recovery, returned to work with his dad, and the golfing buddies are closer than ever before. James, a manufacturer at a packaging company, said, Craig and I are really close. We have worked together for many years, and I just wanted to give Craig his life back. I didn't think twice about it, and I think any father would want to do that for their child. Craig said, I'm so thankful to my family, to my dad, and to the transplant team for saving my life. The transplant experience has brought me and my dad even closer together. Craig's journey with kidney issues began in childhood, but it wasn't until a family holiday in 2021 that his symptoms became clearer. His mom noticed his ankles were swollen and insisted he see a doctor. After visiting his GP, Craig was swiftly admitted to St. John's Hospital in Livingston with extremely high blood pressure as he was at risk of having a stroke. Craig went on to be diagnosed with IgA nephropathy, where a buildup of protein damages the kidney's filtering function. In November of 2021, and he was put on dialysis in October of 2022. All right, Sean, have a good night. Thank you for sticking around and derailing us several times. He said, it was really scary being admitted to hospital so quickly and then being told that my kidney function was declining rapidly. I didn't feel unwell, which made it even more disconcerting. I felt way too young for this to happen, and there was so much more I wanted to achieve in my life. James was identified as the optimal donor, and in 2023, Craig and his dad underwent the life-saving kidney transplant. Craig's mother, Carol, said, I felt so helpless having my husband and my son in surgery. I was pacing up and down the hospital corridors just waiting to hear whether they were both okay. The operation was a success, and within days, the transplant began making a visible difference to Craig, James said. He looked significantly healthier after the surgery. His face just lit up. Before the operation, his kidneys were functioning at 8%, and after 1 day post-surgery, his kidneys were up at 21%, and it was amazing. Seeing him healthy and happy was the greatest reward any father could ask for. Since the operation, Craig has returned to work with his dad at the packaging company. The pair go golfing regularly. Craig said, I'm now able to do what I want, and I can finally lead a normal life. I'm just back from a golfing holiday with my dad, and the experience has ignited an excitement within me for exploring the world more. I've been given a second chance, and I want to enjoy every minute. Nina Kunkel-Howden, live donor transplant coordinator, NHS Lothian, said, Craig's journey is a powerful testament to the transformative impact of living kidney donation. Living donors really do change lives. We wish him and his family the very best. To a father providing to save the life of his son and to have many more years. And definitely to Eliza for sending in that article. Cheers. And now for our last article of the night. I called this one, Finally Amongst the Stars. And I'm going to copy and paste this one in the chat for y'all to read along. This one was sent in by Charlie. And this one did also show up on goodsnewsnetwork.org. America's first black astronaut candidate finally goes to space at 90 years old. America's first black astronaut candidate has finally made it to space 60 years later, flying with Jeff Bezos' rocket company. Ed Dwight blasted off from West Texas with 5 other passengers on Sunday. This article came out on May 19th. That was Sunday. Dwight was an Air Force pilot when President John F. Kennedy championed him as a candidate for NASA's early astronaut corps. But he wasn't picked for the 1963 class, which included eventual Gemini and Apollo astronauts, including Apollo 11's Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins. It's about damn time. I could have titled it "It's About Damn Time." That would have worked too. NASA didn't select black astronauts until 1978, and Guyan Bluford became the first African American in space in 1983. Dwight, now 90, went through a few minutes of weightlessness with 5 other passengers aboard the Blue Origin capsule as it skimmed space on a roughly 10-minute flight. He called it a life-changing experience. I thought I really didn't need this in my life, Dwight said shortly after exiting the capsule, but now I'm ecstatic. The brief flight from West Texas made Dwight the new record holder for the oldest person in space, nearly 2 months older than Star Trek actor William Shatner when he went up in 2021. Dwight has worked as a sculptor now for decades, and to tell the story of black history, Blue Origin said. He spent the last 5 decades creating large-scale monuments of iconic black figures, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, and Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, among many others. His more than 130 public works are installed in museums and public spaces across the U.S. and Canada. The launch Sunday was Blue Origin's first crew launch in nearly 2 years. I am not going to read the last paragraph because it is not relevant to this American hero getting a chance to go up in space finally. A thank you to to Blue Origin for making this happen, and a huge, it's very hard to understand, Sean, a huge congratulations to Ed Dwight, who at 90 years old finally got to touch space. And a big thank you to Charlie for sending that one in. Cheers. Breaking barriers and being amazing. That is it for tonight. 11 amazing articles, 7 of which sent in by you, the viewers. I couldn't be happier. This selection was amazing. The wholesome notes especially, just, I mean, these articles killed it. So thank you all very much for sending those in. Yeah. Thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Knicks News Facebook page. Again, we're live usually every other Sunday, and we're going to be back on our regularly scheduled days, with our next episode being on June 9th, 2024. Thank you, Ed. I encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, you can post suggestions for future episodes for news brews, for shout-outs, for news quotes, and of course, those good news articles that we can present on future episodes. If possible, I do like a variety of articles that are spread out across our 4 categories, and again, those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and those wholesome notes, those really nice articles that we like to end on. So, as always, thank you again. I love you all so much. And have a great night. And I'll play us out.